If you're over 70 and your feet drag just a little more than they used to, this might shock you. A single change in the way you walk can double your risk of dying in the next 5 years. Yes, double, and most people don't even realize it's happening until they're in a hospital bed or worse. A subtle shuffle, a misstep, a fall that seemed minor but ends with a broken hip, a blood clot, or a brain bleed. Every 19 minutes in the US, an older adult dies from a fall. And here's the terrifying truth. Nearly all of those deaths were preventable, but nobody warned them that their walk had become a warning. I'm Dr. Ryo Iba, a specialist in elder mobility and functional aging. Over the past 25 years, I've helped thousands of older adults turn back the clock on their gait, balance, and strength, allowing them to live strong, independent, and fall free well into their 90s. My methods are simple but brutally effective, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to identify the death walk, and more importantly, how to stop it. Your feet are trying to tell you something. Don't wait until they scream, because the earliest sign of a deadly fall is almost invisible to the untrained eye until it becomes a full-blown emergency. It always starts small, a slight hesitation before stepping off a curb, a moment of confusion when turning around too quickly. Maybe you've noticed your toes catching the carpet more often, or your stride narrowing without meaning to. These aren't quirks of aging, they're red alerts, hidden in plain sight. Research from Harvard's Mobility and Aging Lab found that 72% of fatal fall victims showed at least one subtle gait change in the year before their accident. Most had no idea their body was broadcasting distress signals. Let's talk about the silent precursors. First, the hesitant heel. It's when your foot doesn't strike the ground as confidently or firmly as it once did. Instead of rolling from heel to toe, it sort of flattens or slaps down. This means your body is compensating for lost balance, proprioception, or nerve strength, especially in the ankles and knees. Next, the micropause, a tiny stop that happens when you're walking and suddenly need to pivot, turn, or even just step over a small obstacle. You pause not consciously, but because your brain isn't syncing smoothly with your legs. That half-second stall may seem harmless, but it can double the odds of falling backward, which is the most lethal kind of fall for older adults. Then there's the narrowing base. Watch how you or your loved ones walk across a hallway. If the feet move closer together over time or seem to almost cross in front, balance is declining. The wide, stable stride of youth becomes a tightrope, and one wobble is all it takes. Studies show that this shift, called gait, be an early indicator of cerebellar degeneration, the kind that comes with hidden strokes or early-stage Parkinson's. Yes, a narrower walk can be a window into your brain, but what about something even more deceptive, walking speed? We tend to dismiss it. Oh, I'm just slowing down, we say, but slow gait isn't benign. In fact, according to a 15-year longitudinal study from the Journal of Gerontology, walking slower than 0.6 meters per second at age 75 is associated with a 44% increased risk of death within the next decade. Why? Because slow walking usually means poor coordination, muscular weakness, and declining cardiovascular health, all wrapped into one. Still, the most dangerous part isn't the physical change, it's the psychological one. As people feel less stable, they begin to walk defensively. Arms tighten up, head looks down, steps get shorter. This fear gait increases fall risk threefold because it locks the body in a rigid reactive state. And here's the irony, by trying to avoid falling, your brain starts to cause the fall. You need to listen to how your body moves before it screams out with pain. Think back to your last trip to the kitchen or mailbox. Did you feel grounded and fluid, or tense and hesitant? That answer may say more about your health than your last physical exam. But what if the way you're walking now is already the most dangerous of all? One gait pattern has been linked to the highest rate of fall-related deaths. It's incredibly common, especially in men over 70, and chances are you've seen it, or maybe even developed it yourself. It's called the short step shuffle, and it's a silent killer. At first glance, it doesn't look like much: small, flat steps with barely any foot clearance. No heel strike, no toe push-off, just a dragging, hesitant rhythm that whispers frailty with every stride. But here's the chilling truth: older adults who develop this shuffle walk are 3 times more likely to suffer a fall-related injury that leads to death within 12 months. That's not a theory. It's documented in multiple cohort studies, including one published in the Lancet Healthy Longevity. Why is this gait pattern so deadly? First, there's almost zero lift in the foot. That means every doorway threshold, uneven tile, or bunched-up rug becomes a trap. Something as harmless as a sock on hardwood can become a weapon. The shuffle reduces the time your foot is in the air, yes, but it also kills your ability to react. When you walk like this, your body can't correct mid-step. You've given up your save mechanism, that lightning quick adjustment that helps healthy walkers recover from a misstep. The shuffle also ruins your natural gait cycle. Normally, your legs act like pendulums, swinging forward with momentum while your core and hips stabilize your center. But shuffling replaces that graceful sequence with stiffness. The pelvis locks up. The glutes go dormant. You begin to move entirely from your knees and ankles, both of which are terrible at absorbing shock or providing balance. It's like trying to walk with frozen hips and rusty hinges below. One slip and there's no kinetic cushion left. And the arms, don't even get me started. Most people who shuffle have stopped using their arms properly. They clutch a purse or walker. They fold their hands behind their back. Or worse, they stiffen the elbows and hold them at their sides like they're bracing for impact. What they don't realize is that arms are a core part of balance. When your stride shortens and your arms stop swinging, your center of gravity shrinks and your margin for error vanishes. Even worse, the fatal shuffle is almost always paired with a forward tilt of the head and neck. Why? Because people begin watching the ground obsessively, scanning for obstacles instead of walking upright. That neck tilt throws your posture forward, pulling your whole body into a precarious lean. It creates a domino effect. Head leans forward, shoulders hunch, spine rounds, knees bend, and suddenly you're not walking, you're falling in slow motion. And if you're thinking, well, I use a cane or walker so I'm safe, think again. Many people use assistive devices incorrectly, dragging them instead of lifting, leaning on them instead of balancing through them. Studies show that improper walker use among shuffle-style walkers increases fall risk by 220%. Let that sink in. The very tool you're trusting could be working against you. But here's what really seals the fate of the shuffler: the erosion of confidence. People who develop the shuffle often stop walking as much. They avoid stairs, they limit errands, their world shrinks, and with that shrinkage comes rapid deconditioning. Muscles weaken, bones soften, reflexes dull. What begins as a coping strategy ends up becoming a prison, and the walls get tighter every week. By the time someone ends up in a hospital with a fractured pelvis or subdural hematoma from a fall, the shuffle has usually been there for months, if not years. But no one said anything, no doctor flagged it, no family member connected the dots. It was dismissed as just getting older. But aging isn't the problem, degeneration is. And degeneration, specifically the kind that causes the shuffle, often starts in one place most people never suspect. Not the feet, not the knees, but deep inside the nervous system. Behind every dangerous gait lies a nervous system that's quietly misfiring. When you walk, you're not just using muscles, you're running a complex software program inside your brain. That program involves thousands of micro-adjustments happening every second, from your spinal cord to your cerebellum, from your inner ear to the sensory nerves in your toes. But here, the terrifying part: long before you notice anything wrong with your legs, your nervous system could already be breaking down. Let's start with proprioception, your sixth sense. It's your brain's ability to sense where your body is in space, even with your eyes closed. When you lose proprioception in your feet and ankles, which happens often with aging, diabetes, or certain medications, your brain gets fuzzy signals. That's when your steps become unsure. You don't feel the floor the same way. Your toes start catching, and suddenly, a simple pivot in the kitchen feels like stepping onto a boat. In fact, researchers at the National Institute on Aging found that poor proprioceptive feedback is one of the top 3 predictors of fatal falls, and it usually goes undiagnosed. Then there's the cerebellum, the little brain in the back of your skull. It doesn't think, it coordinates, and it's absolutely essential for walking. If your cerebellum shrinks or suffers from microvascular damage, tiny, silent strokes, you lose timing, rhythm, and balance. That's when the classic drunken gait appears, even in people who haven't had a drop of alcohol. They weave, they stagger, and they fall backwards, which is the most dangerous direction to fall. CT scans of fall victims over 75 often show cerebellar atrophy that was never caught in routine checkups. But perhaps the most overlooked culprit is the basal ganglia, deep brain structures that regulate movement fluidity. These are the very areas that begin to degenerate in conditions like Parkinson's disease. Yet you don't need a full Parkinson's diagnosis to suffer its early effects. Doctors now recognize a syndrome called prodromal Parkinsonism, subtle changes in gait, facial expression, and posture that happen up to 10 years before diagnosis. In other words, the stumble may come before the tremor, and don't forget the role of the spine. Spinal stenosis, narrowing of the spinal canal, compresses nerves in the lower back that control your legs. It's common in adults over 70 and can create what's called a neurogenic claudication gait, short steps, wide base, bent forward, and constant fatigue. Many think it's arthritis, but it's not. It's your nerves being choked, and it can be progressive unless addressed. The cascade continues with peripheral neuropathy, which affects over 25% of seniors, especially those with diabetes, chemotherapy history, or B12 deficiency. It deadens the feet, dulls reflexes, and turns walking into a guessing game. And when your brain has to guess, that's when falls happen. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of all is how these neurological deficits compound each other. A little cerebellar shrinkage plus some proprioceptive loss, sprinkle in mild neuropathy, and suddenly you're walking on legs that no longer belong to you. You're not unstable because you're weak. You're unstable because your nervous system has gone quiet where it used to shout. And what do most people do when they start feeling this kind of unsteadiness? They unknowingly make it worse. They stop challenging their body. They stop climbing stairs, walking on grass, or moving quickly. But avoidance leads to atrophy, both muscular and neural. The brain, when understimulated, begins to shut down unused pathways. You don't use it, you lose it. That includes your balance circuits, your motor planning centers, and even your gait memory. So if the nervous system is the hidden driver of the death walk, what can you do? You start by strengthening its most powerful ally, the core. Because without a strong foundation in your hips and trunk, even a perfect brain can't keep you upright. And unfortunately, most older adults are walking around with a core that's already collapsed. Most people think the core is just about abs. Sit-ups, planks, maybe a crunch or two. But in reality, your core is your body's balance command center. It includes your deep abdominal muscles, lower back, pelvic floor, and the muscles around your hips, all working together like a suspension bridge. And when that bridge starts to sag, your entire gait begins to fail. Here's the frightening truth. Studies show that core weakness is present in over 80% of older adults who suffer a fall-related injury. It's not just a contributing factor, it's a trigger. Let's paint a picture. Imagine walking across a slick bathroom floor in socks. What saves you from slipping? Not just your feet, but your ability to stabilize from the center out. The transverse abdominis, your deepest abdominal muscle, contracts milliseconds before you even take a step. It braces your spine, coordinates with your diaphragm, and activates your pelvic floor to give your body midline control. But if that system is weak or inactive, every step becomes a gamble. You're not walking, you're teetering. Now add in hip weakness. The gluteus medius, a key stabilizer located on the side of your buttocks, is essential for keeping you from tipping side to side. If you've ever seen someone walking with a slight waddle, especially after a hip surgery or during advanced age, that's gluteus medius failure. And here's the kicker, once those hip stabilizers go, your body starts making dangerous compensations. Knees turn inward, ankles collapse, the torso leans, and the gait becomes unstable. But it's not just about how you walk, it's about how you react. If you trip, your core has to kick in immediately to stop a fall. If you shift your weight, your pelvic floor must tighten to maintain control. If you step sideways, your obliques need to fire. But for most older adults, those muscles have been asleep for years, dormant from too much sitting, too little activation, and years of walking on autopilot. In fact, a study from the American Geriatrics Society found that older adults with poor trunk strength were 4 times more likely to fall, even if they had good leg strength. Why? Because leg muscles without a stable core are like wheels on a car with a bent frame. No matter how strong your thighs are, if your center doesn't hold, everything else fails. And the danger gets worse when fear kicks in. Remember the fear gate we talked about earlier? One of the first things people do when they feel unsteady is tighten their abs, but not in a helpful way. They brace, overcorrect, and start breathing shallowly. This shuts down the diaphragm, tenses the spine, and throws posture into chaos. The body becomes rigid. Stiffness replaces flexibility. That rigidity, it triples the chance of falling during unexpected movement. And it's not just about movement, it's about recovery. A strong core allows you to stumble without falling, to twist without collapsing, to step backward without tipping. But without that power center, even a slight imbalance becomes catastrophic. Bump from a grandchild. a misstep on uneven ground, a turn to answer someone behind you, any of these can cause a devastating fall when the core is gone. Here's a shocking stat. After a fall that results in hip fracture, 1 in 3 older adults dies within a year. Not because of the bone itself, but because of the cascade that follows: immobility, infections, blood clots, and depression. And behind many of those falls was a weak, deactivated core that could have been trained back into action. But how do we end up with collapsed cores in the first place? One major contributor is modern footwear. You heard that right. The very shoes you wear every day could be destroying your gait, your posture, and your ability to walk safely, one step at a time. It's a hard truth to face, but many older adults are walking straight into danger with every step, thanks to their shoes. The wrong footwear doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It silently rewires how you walk, weakens your stabilizing muscles, and triples your risk of falling. In fact, a massive Australian study of 1,500 seniors found that over 70% of participants who experienced a fall were wearing shoes that directly contributed to it. And the scariest part, most of them were wearing the right size, but the wrong design. Let's talk about the most dangerous shoe in the elderly wardrobe: the slip-on. Loafers, backless sandals, flip-flops, even some casual clogs. These shoes rob your foot of natural engagement. Instead of gripping and flexing with every step, your toes start to curl unnaturally just to keep the shoe on. That tight grip leads to claw toe, poor blood flow, and nerve tension, especially in the plantar surface of the foot. Worse, the lack of rear support causes heel instability. Every step becomes a risk for lateral ankle rolling or backward slips. Then we have the marshmallow shoes, over-cushioned sneakers that seem soft and comfortable but completely obliterate your connection to the ground. When you can't feel the surface you're walking on, your brain can't calibrate balance effectively. This sensory disconnection delays reaction time by up to 40%. That's the difference between regaining your footing or hitting the floor. While marketed as orthopedic, these shoes often disable the very muscles they claim to support. On the opposite end are shoes that are too rigid or tight. Think of those stiff, leather dress shoes worn out of habit, or old sneakers that have lost their flex. These limit your foot's natural pronation and supination, the side-to-side roll that absorbs shock and maintains stability. When the shoe doesn't move with your foot, the stress shifts up into the knees, hips, and spine. This can create a domino effect: reduced ankle mobility, shorter stride length, and eventually, compensatory gait patterns like the shuffle or the waddle. But it's not just about design, it's about age. Most older adults are wearing shoes that are far too old. The foam midsoles have collapsed. The soles have worn unevenly, often tilting to one side. This creates a mechanical imbalance with every step. Your foot lands tilted, your ankle compensates, your hip shifts, your spine twists. Multiply that by thousands of steps a day, and you're left with chronic joint misalignment and a gait that's practically begging for a fall. Even insoles can be deadly. Cheap, store-bought inserts often lift the foot into an unnatural angle, or worse, shift your weight too far forward. This increases fall risk, especially on stairs or slopes. If you've ever felt slightly off balance walking downhill in a pair of supportive shoes, you felt this subtle sabotage in action. So what should older adults wear instead? Look for shoes with firm heel counters, wide toe boxes, low heels, and textured soles with solid grip. The best walking shoes allow your feet to feel the ground without sinking into it. They offer stability without stiffness, support without suffocation. And most importantly, they don't interfere with the natural roll of your gait. And no, going barefoot isn't the answer either. As we age, our fat pads thin out, especially under the heel and forefoot. Walking barefoot on hard surfaces can increase pressure by over 30%, leading to pain, inflammation, and changes in how we distribute weight. That pain leads to avoidance behaviors, and once again, the gait begins to degrade. You see, every detail in your footwear choices matters. Your shoes aren't just accessories, they're instruments of alignment, balance, and survival. The wrong pair can create instability in seconds, but the right pair, they can help reawaken your reflexes, rebuild confidence, and restore a powerful, youthful stride. And when your stride begins to return, when your core re-engages, your feet move freely, and your brain gets clear signals again, something amazing happens. The death walk reverses. But you have to know how to do it. Not just what to avoid, but what to train. Because preventing a fatal fall isn't luck. It's a learned skill. Imagine this: you walk into your kitchen, shoulders back, steps firm, gaze steady. You pivot on one foot to grab a glass, and your body reacts with perfect balance. No wobble, no hesitation. That's not fantasy. That's what reclaiming your gait looks like, and it's entirely possible at any age. The so-called death walk is not a life sentence. It's a pattern, and patterns can be broken. To reverse dangerous gait patterns, we don't start with the feet. We start with the nervous system. The key lies in neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to rewire itself, even in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Every time you move with intention, your brain strengthens the circuits that support safe walking. But it has to be the right kind of movement, challenging, varied, and just outside your comfort zone. Step 1. Balance reactivation drills. These are simple, science-backed movements that retrain your body to stabilize itself in real time. For example, the single leg stand. You hold onto a counter, raise one foot a few inches and hold for 10 seconds, then switch. Do it daily. Within 3 weeks, you'll see measurable improvement in ankle control, knee alignment, and even confidence. Don't underestimate it. This is the exact drill used in fall recovery clinics across Japan, where fall-related death rates have plummeted thanks to community-based balance retraining. Step 2. Gait resetting exercises. Ever heard of the heel-to-toe walk? You step forward slowly, placing your heel directly in front of your toe like you're walking on a tightrope. This forces your brain to re-engage dormant balance circuits. Add a slight head turn or a verbal cue, and you're training coordination, not just movement. 5 minutes a day rewires everything from your vestibular system to your core. Then there's hip awakening. Most people over 70 have lazy hips. The glutes, piriformis, and deep rotators shut down from years of sitting, but they can be switched back on. One of my go-to prescriptions is the Monster Walk, a resistance band around your thighs, step side to side like a crab. Do this for 2 minutes a day, and within a week, you'll notice more stride power and better lateral control. Strong hips mean fewer side falls, which are the leading cause of hip fractures. But what about the core? The fix isn't crunches, it's dynamic stabilization. My favorite, the marching bridge. Lie on your back, knees bent, lift your hips, then march one foot off the ground at a time. It looks simple, but it fires your glutes, hamstrings, pelvic floor, and spinal stabilizers in a single move. It teaches your body how to move one leg while keeping the rest of your body under control, exactly what safe walking requires. And don't forget the arms. Restoring your natural arm swing improves gait rhythm and overall velocity. Practice reciprocal marching. Lift one knee and the opposite arm high, hold for 3 seconds, and alternate. This reprograms cross-body neurological patterns that degrade with age and illness. But exercise alone isn't enough. You must challenge your walking environment. Too many older adults walk only on flat, predictable surfaces. That's a trap. Your body adapts only to what it experiences. So walk on grass, gravel, carpet, curbs. Train your balance before it's tested in real life. I even recommend a few minutes a day of barefoot balance training on a soft mat to reawaken foot nerves that may have gone numb from years in shoes. And here's the final secret: consistency beats intensity. You don't need to train like an athlete. You need to train like your life depends on it, because it does. Just 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, can reduce fall risk by over 50%. That's not hype. That's based on clinical results from multiple trials on older adults with high fall history. You don't need fancy machines. You don't need a gym. You need your body, a bit of guidance, and the will to move with purpose again. You can walk stronger, taller, more stable. You can outwalk the statistics. I've seen 90-year-olds with Parkinson's move better than 65-year-olds who gave up. But even if you retrain your body perfectly, there's still one hidden danger lurking inside almost every home. It's not your gait, it's not your strength. It's the surface you walk on, and it's taking lives in silence. It's not the stairs, it's not the driveway, it's not even the icy front porch. The deadliest surface in your home is something far more familiar and far more deceptive. It's your bathroom floor. Cold, slick, and often underestimated, this small square of tile is responsible for more fatal falls among older adults than any other part of the home. According to the CDC, over 80% of all falls in adults over 65 occur in the bathroom, and most are on flat ground. What makes it so dangerous? First, it's a high-risk zone for sudden movement. You're stepping in and out of showers, reaching, turning, and often doing so barefoot or in slippers that have zero grip. Second, there's water on the floor, on your feet, on your hands. Even a small splash turns tile into ice. And third, there's false confidence. Most people think they're safe because the bathroom is small, but the proximity to hard edges, the toilet, the tub, the sink, means that when you fall, you don't just hit the floor. You hit corners, you hit porcelain, you hit metal. Here's a chilling stat. Falls in the bathroom are twice as likely to result in a traumatic brain injury compared to falls in the living room or bedroom. Why? Because they happen fast, in confined spaces and often backwards, when your head is least protected. What can you do? First, install non-slip mats both inside and outside the shower. Replace bath rugs with rubber-backed safety versions. And never walk barefoot on wet tile. Use textured shower shoes or grippy socks. Also consider adding a wall-mounted grab bar, not the kind that suctions to tile, but a properly drilled support bar that can bear your full body weight. It could save your life. Your home should be a haven, not a hazard. And the death floor, it's waiting for a single misstep. Let's bring it all together. If you're over 70, the way you walk isn't just a detail, it's a diagnosis. That subtle shuffle, the hesitant turn, the narrowing of your stance, these are not harmless quirks. They're signals. Early, deadly warning signs that your body's balance systems, muscular strength, or neurological pathways are failing. And if ignored, they often lead straight to a catastrophic fall. You've now seen how the death walk begins, quietly, almost invisibly. It may start with your heel no longer striking the floor properly, or your steps becoming shorter, flatter, less confident. You've learned that a slow walking speed isn't just about agging, it can actually predict your risk of death. And you now know that dangerous gait changes like the short step shuffle drastically increase your risk of suffering a fall that ends not just in injury, but in permanent disability or even death. But gait doesn't fail in isolation. Behind that dangerous walk is often a deeper problem, your nervous system misfiring due to lost proprioception, cerebellar shrinkage, or compressed spinal nerves. Weakness in your core, hips, and trunk only magnify the danger. And yes, even your shoes, the wrong soles, the wrong fit, the wrong support, can destroy your ability to walk safely step by step. We exposed the most dangerous place in your house, the slick, silent, deceptively deadly bathroom floor. And we reminded you that many assistive devices like canes and walkers, if used incorrectly, might be giving you a false sense of security and increasing your fall risk rather than reducing it. But more importantly, we gave you power. You now have tools that can reverse the damage, gait retraining drills, core reactivation techniques, hip awakening exercises. You understand how to engage your nervous system, how to challenge your balance, how to rebuild walking confidence from the ground up. This isn't theory. These are the very protocols I've used to help thousands of patients walk stronger in their 80s than they did in their 60s. So now I ask you to take one step, not a figurative one, a literal one. Stand up. Walk with purpose. Observe yourself. Are you gliding or are you shuffling? Are your arms swinging or stiff? Is your gaze up and forward or glued to the floor? The way you answer these questions will tell you more about your true health than any blood test. Because walking is not just a way to get around. It's a window into your brain, your strength, and your future. Watch how you walk. It may just save your life. You don't have to accept decline. You don't have to shrink your world, slow your pace, or live in fear of every step. You were made to move, and with the right knowledge, you can reclaim that power. I've seen it happen with people in their 70s, 80s, even their late 90s. They came in afraid to walk across the room. Months later, they were dancing at weddings, traveling, playing with great-grandkids. The difference wasn't luck, it was action. If anything in this video felt familiar, if you've noticed that shuffle, that pause, that stiffness creeping in, don't ignore it. Start today, start small, but start. Your body will thank you, your brain will wake up, and your balance will come back stronger than ever. If this video helped you, share it with someone you care about. It could save their life. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another deep dive into real, life-saving elder health. And leave a comment, tell me what part of your walk you're going to focus on this week. I read every single one. You are not fragile, you are not broken, you are just deconditioned. And that can change, starting with your next step. So walk strong, walk proud, and let's walk into your 90s with power.